Hi everybody, and welcome back or welcome to Weoley Tropicals. Today I'm coming on a very strange day today. It keeps going really sunny, then it's been hailing for a little bit, it snowed for about 10 minutes, it was sunny again. So I'm jumping in and out in between all of the stupid weather that's occurring at the moment. I wish it would just make its mind up. And what I'm bringing today is it's an impossible task really for a gardener, but I've asked some of my YouTubers that I speak to all the time, content creators, whatever you want to call yourself, or people that put videos up on YouTube in the tropical sector. What couple of plants, between 1 and 3 plants, if you were starting again, would you pick and why? So I've got a few channels that are going to feature coming up now with their explanations, and it's a great different range of plants and the reasons why we've chosen them. So without further waffle, I'm going to get at it. I'm going to show you which plants that I would choose if I was starting again now, or if you've already started, some stuff that you might be able to add to your garden as well. So let's get at it. So this one next to me here is the Musa Basju. Doesn't look like much at the moment as it's only just been recently unwrapped, but I'll put an overlay on the screen of how glorious this thing looks. Every single person that visits the garden or visits my little plant nursery when I'm selling plants comments on this. Every single person. It ticks loads of boxes from being hardy, and that's from root hardy. So you've got a couple of options, whether you want to protect it like I do and it keep the height, or if you want to do the kind of bit more hands-off method, it'll die back to the ground and it'll put from the base. So it depends on how you want to do it. I want to keep that because that's a season's worth of growth, and that's why I do it, for sake of some fleece. The paddle-shaped leaves on these that can go between like 2 meters plus, and when they're hanging over the garden, it just creates that absolutely beautiful tropical vibe in my garden where I'm sitting in the patio and you can just see the paddle leaves moving. And even when the paddle leaves get absolutely shredded, I still think they look absolutely fantastic. I've seen these plants from B&M from like £6.50, £8.50, somewhere in that range, to like around about a tenner. And they do put on significant growth in the first year. You might be talking, in fact, I don't want to put a name on it, but I know when I had mine, it was about maybe 4 or 5 feet in the first year. That was including the leaves, and then from the second year onwards it's just been towering. I think this thing last year probably ended up about 10 or 12 feet tall. It was over the fence and stuff like that, so that would be my first choice. It's an absolute stunner. Like I said, I'll put something on there. I'm sure you guys would have heard about this plant before, so it might not come as any shock, but there's no way I was going to do a what plant would I choose if I was starting again and not include the Musa Basju. So the next plant that I've got on my list is the Viburnum. I'm going to call it Davidii, or whatever you want to pronounce it. It's David with 2 eyes at the end of it. And that one is great for a filler. It's something that I saw on George's tour when he went round. So I believe it was Shane's. And as you can see there, it fills in all around the Trachycarpus area. So I've pinched Shane's idea with that one. It's evergreen, bone hardy, and it's just the leaf. I'll take you in so you can have a little look. It just ticks that box as to when you've got these bigger plants and they start romping away. Next thing you know, I always say it looks like the flamingo effect, where it's like a flamingo's got the long legs and its body starts about up here. That's kind of what the garden ends up like when some of these plants start romping away. So it covers, it eats that kind of area where you would see a lot of bare earth otherwise. And like I say, because it's hardy, I mean, these are bone hardy, that just gives you some winter interest as well. It's a nice little bit of movement in the garden, but it really eats, for the price, it really eats that space. I think that's an absolute fantastic addition. On to my last pick now. And the very last of my picks is euphorbias. Kind of in general, they're all relatively hardy from the ones that I've had in the garden. They do get a little bit of bent out of shape. You can see this one's leaning a little bit over, but this is the Euphorbia John Phillips. And the snow basically pushed this down. It is recovering because that was right on the floor, but again, evergreen. I don't think this plant looks better than when it's got the beads of water on it. Like after I've hosed the garden, it pulls on the leaves. It looks absolutely fantastic. Scented like you wouldn't believe as well, and huge. So for the price, it's an absolute must. Hardy, evergreen, and scented. You need to make sure that when you plant these though, that you give them enough room. As you can see there, that's only been in the ground for 1 year. So these things can romp away. Some of you can take cuttings from and spread around as well, or sell and make some extra tokens for the garden centre, so you can buy something else as well. So hopefully these 3 picks, obviously I started off with a really obvious one with the Musa Basju. The Viburnum is an absolute great show, and this Euphorbia is absolutely stunning. Hopefully that's been of some use to you. If you knew absolutely all of them, that's fine. There's some more coming, see if we can catch you to get you a new plant on your list as well. But thanks for watching my section. On to the next one.
Hi Eddie, and thank you very much for asking my opinion on this matter. Nice to know that someone cares. It's not just me talking to myself. So the top 3 plants, if I was to start again, knowing what I know now, would be as follows. The first plant I would choose is a palm tree, and it's a Trachycarpus wagnerianus. And not only does it have a funny name, actually we'll probably call it Waggy from now on. I know that Eddie's channel is a family-friendly channel. Chosen a Trachycarpus wagnerianus, said it again, instead of a Fortunii, like this one here, simply because this Fortunii, as you can see, has been battered by the wind. This Waggy has really stiff leaves. I've talked about this in some of my videos. The wind just doesn't bend them. They don't misshape, they don't snap. It's just a much better suited palm tree for the UK climate. When you think of tropical gardening, you tend to think of bigger is better. Well, I do anyway. You kind of imagine yourself walking through a jungle and being surrounded by huge foliage. Huge foliage doesn't agree with 70-mile-an-hour winds. It is slower growing, so the best time to plant one is today, like right now, or maybe after this video. That way you don't have to lie down on the lawn to admire it. This one has been in the ground for about 10 years, and it was a seedling when I planted it. But you get the idea, it's a fairly slow grower. Hardiness is no issue for the Waggy, and it'll tolerate wind, rain, snow, thunder, lightning, hurricanes, you name it, it'll tolerate it. My second plant, oh dear. My second plant is another palm tree, and this time it's an Butea odorata. For me, it's a great balance between cost and hardiness. It's slightly more expensive than a Canary Island date palm, but it won't look like this after winter. This is a Canary Island date palm. Well, it certainly was. So it's definitely hardier. It's hardy to around about -7, I would say. You'll see damage after -7. It's a lot more complicated than that, must be said. So it's not a case of temperature alone. It's humidity, it's length of temperature below freezing as well. That's really important. And also the Buteas hate the roots being frozen. In fact, if the roots are frozen all the way through, then they will die, unfortunately. That said, I grow these in pots outside all year round, and I've only lost 1 palm so far in about 10 years. Drainage is key for this plant. I use a really light, well-drained soil mix in there, basically Johnnings number 3. And the best place to buy one of these is not B&M, it's Hardy Palms, which is a nursery just outside of Bristol, and Nigel runs the nursery. He's got an online, he's got a website you can buy online, or you can make arrangements to visit the nursery. And that is where this palm tree came from, along with I think 3 others. I'm sure bought 4 last year. And if you are actually really interested in hardy palms, then I did do a video whilst I was there, so check out my channel. One final thing to note on the Butea is that it is fairly slow to start growing. It does pick up pace as it gets older and more established. So it's easy to look at that and think, oh, I just need like a metre of space there, but you need a lot more than that. So I wouldn't be able to plant this, for example, in this gap here. That would be a disaster. That's probably a metre wide, or a metre, you know, from the fence to the grass. Nowhere near enough space. I'd say you need at least 3 by 3, so 9 square meters to allow this to grow. And the third plant I've chosen is a Cordyline australis. Now this is a fantastic looking plant, as you can see. They're really cheap to buy. You can get them for £3 or £4 in most supermarkets, bargain retailers, DIY stores, just for a small plant, but they grow quickly. They're pretty hardy, and what happens is when a really cold spell comes, you know, once every 10 years say, it will die back to the base. So this plant used to be up in the sky there, but a few years ago it was knocked back to ground level, and you can see it's regrown various new growth points from the base. So it's really simple to look after. Again, it likes free draining soil. Feed it in the summer, as with most plants. It's just really easy to take care of. Same as the others as well. It isn't a palm tree, but it looks a bit like a palm tree, and you treat it like a palm tree because you just cut the leaf bases as they go brown, as they start to die, and lots of new ones come up through the center of the crown there. Eddie, I hope you agree with my recommendations. If not, then please address all complaints to my agent, Richard Fay. And thank you for watching.
Thank you, Eddie, for including me in this video. And if I was to start again, 2 plants that would definitely be on my list come from the same family, the Weoley family, and that is Fatsia polycarpa and Schefflera alpina. Both of these plants have done exceptionally well throughout winter without protection in my garden, and they've had temperatures of -6. No damage whatsoever. They both come through really well. They both tolerate shade and full sun as well, and growing exceptionally quickly for such great plants. So let's have a look at them in detail. Fatsia polycarpa is a hardy, evergreen, architectural shrub that's popular in the UK gardens and becoming more and more available. 2 varieties that I know of. This is the Fatsia polycarpa greenfingers, but you also get the Ednam Needham's form. Now, greenfingers is a mass-produced variety. The Edward Needham's form is a seed-grown variety, a little bit more tricky to get hold of. They feature these deeply divided matte green leaves, and they do produce flowers very much like Fatsia flowers if you've seen them. It can reach 2 to 4 meters. There's some great examples. Weoley Tropicals has got a huge plant. They don't really require a lot of maintenance. Of course, just trimming off dead leaves, etc. If the growth point does get damaged, then it will sprout from the side. You do get aphids occasionally in the crown, so just get rid of this jelly-like substance with a blast of a hose pipe, because otherwise they will eat the flushes of new leaves. Flushes about 2 to 3 times a year, so once in spring and then gradually throughout the year. The leaves come out this amazing lime green colour, gradually turning into the matte green. What an amazing plant to get. So Schefflera alpina, becoming more and more available. Once upon a time these were very difficult to get hold of, but now the Dutch have produced these mass-produced varieties, and they're very, very hardy. They're native to northern Taiwan, and the mountain range that they come from means that they are pretty tolerant of cold temperatures, more than the more tropical varieties. It adds an exotic, jungly aesthetic to your garden. It's one of the hardiest species, and it can go down to -10, even -15 once fully established. It features these dark, leathery, green glossy leaves, 7 to 9 narrow leaflets on them, and the stem is a beautiful reddy colour. The new flush of leaves comes out with this purple colour and looks absolutely beautiful. They do like to be kept in moist soil but not overly wet, because that will cause root rot. And it's a good idea just to keep them staked for the first year, because it does take a while for the roots to establish in the soil. It's such a great specimen to add something different to your garden that isn't your same normal varieties of plants. So once again, 2 choices that would really make a difference to your garden, and I would get if I was starting out again: Schefflera alpina and Fatsia polycarpa.
Thanks, Eddie, and certainly a great question as to what plant I would use if I was to restart my garden. If you do follow the channel, you might have a guess already, but for myself, it would be the fern category or fern species. I love the kind of variance you get in the plants from your perennials as well as your evergreen varieties. Many different variances, very easy to grow, very easy to care, great for covering in those shaded spots. And I find the fern genus and fern history quite interesting, being one of the oldest plant species on Earth, dating back to around 360 million years old, sort of time of the dinosaurs. First sort of tree ferns emerging around about the 140 million period. So again, very, very old species. And interestingly enough, the tropical trend isn't what has started the craze in the UK. It's interesting that back in the 1830s to 1890s, there was a huge fern craze across all the social classes in Britain. So it is one that is kind of steeped in history in the UK, with some of the first emergence of tree ferns appearing as ballasts on ships when they actually realized that they did start to regrow when they got them back to the UK. And so kind of the first instances of the Dicksonia antarctica tree ferns sort of making it to UK shores. But again, with that said, just really wanted to kind of give a little history and a little bit of information around the fern species. Certainly one I would choose if I was to restart again, and hopefully that's given you some ideas and some inspiration. And with that said, back to you, Eddie.
Hopefully you found that useful, some different garden perspectives on there. Don't forget to let me know in the comments. I know a lot of you watch it on the TV, so you can't comment annoyingly on there. But if you're on a mobile phone and you've got your three that you would put in there as well, bearing in mind this is from a beginner's point of view, or maybe someone who maybe in the second year or so was who we were aiming it at. So I wasn't going to go Brassiopsis and stuff like that. I don't want to scare people with the cost of some of these plants. I know those have just come down in price, but these were reasonable plants between, like, you know, your 10 and your 30 quid. I know some of them have had a bit more, like the Jubea and stuff like that is maybe a bit more expensive than that, but that's who they were aimed at. Don't forget to put your top three in the comments. If you found it useful, we could do, again, I can involve other content creators and do top three for shade, top three for screening. Let us know what you liked on the subscribe button, because I've done it as a collab. If you click on the subscribe button, you'll be able to subscribe to the other guys that have been on the video as well. Don't forget to share some love. There's a lot of people that watch the videos all the time and they're not subscribed. It doesn't cost anything, and it just helps YouTube know that you'd be interested in this type of content as well. Of course, if you see a video of mine in the future and you're not interested, don't click on it. There's no absolute obligation whatsoever. But don't forget to subscribe, and then it just helps boost our channel. Don't forget to like and hype as well. But other than that, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Thank you.